Stop! Hello there, welcome back to Probot Toy-Cinema Film School. I'm Damon, and today I'm just going to dive right in with a demonstration of one of my favorite in-camera special effects. It was used in the original Star Wars, and it's easy for anyone to reproduce at home in any type of fan film, stop motion, live action, or full size. Because, you know, if it's good enough for George Lucas and Sir Alec Guinness, it's definitely good enough for me. But you can do this without any added special effects, using just the toy lightsaber and a light. I'm going to demonstrate it real simple first, and then we'll do a more elaborate setup using this stuff. This is just one way of using this technique. I'm going to show you other ways to use it. It's a twist on the same optical illusion that allows people to hold up the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Sir Alec Guinness used this Jedi mind trick with a flick of the wrist. I like to say use the force because he used a technique called forced perspective, and it goes something like this.
Again, special effects were used to heighten the action in the scene. Alec Guinness enters carrying only the hilt of his sword. He is given a second sword made of special light-reflecting material. When this sword is turned to the light, the reflection will appear to be the laser beam. However, for a more dramatic effect, an animated glow is added to the laser sword.
Forced perspective works because a camera can easily be tricked into seeing things differently from the way they really are. Take, for example, the Eiffel Tower. You can't take a picture close to it because it won't fit in your picture frame. But if you walk a certain distance away, suddenly you look like a giant next to the tiny little Eiffel Tower, and the same thing at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, where people try to hold it up. It's the most overdone joke in the world, but people do it thousands of times a day. So we can get a lot more creative than that, I hope. Way back in the silent film era, German filmmaker F.W. Murnau was a master of this technique. He even had children drive miniature cars in the background of this famous scene. In this case, we are aiming the blade directly at the lens and then timing the lighting just right so that it sort of looks like the lightsaber is igniting. Or you can extinguish it the same way. I don't think you should overuse this effect, but use it at least once and pay homage to the original Star Wars and Sir Alec Guinness and their Jedi mind trick. I've used this effect so many times because I feel like it's the most cinematic way to ignite a lightsaber if you're going to do a Star Wars movie. And it's a tip of the hat to the original film, so you know, you can't go wrong. I've done it in both stop motion and live action, and most often don't bother enhancing it with any digital effects. We did it the first time that way, but most of the time you just don't need to do it that way to get the lightsabers to glow. And I just love just using light to light the plastic from behind, and an in-camera effect is always preferable to me. But if you don't have an extra little light to use, if you don't want to bother with all that extra work, you can just enhance your lightsabers the old-fashioned way, the way they did it in the original film, by adding an effect on top of it, which, you know, that's not cheating to do it that way either. A lot of people would prefer it that way. So, you know, do it however you want to do it. Do it however you need to do it to get it done. So, you know, I just hope you enjoy seeing how I do it, because I always seem to like to do things the hard way. Other ways of using forced perspective: I used miniature ships flying outside the window to create this in-camera effect. In this one, I used two different perspective effects, or really the same one twice. First, I suspended a slinky and shot it from above to create a weird vibrating tunnel. Then, I made a breakaway set in front of a green screen, all again done horizontally and shot from above, so that, you know, gravity worked to my advantage, and when the set broke away, everything would fall into the air and get sucked into the black hole. And I could drop the characters and they would get sucked into the sky, into the vortex of the black hole. Of course, this is just a twist on Penn and Teller's classic levitation sketch from Saturday Night Live. I will never forget that. It was one of the most mind-blowing and inspirational things I've ever seen on live television. In my latest video, I needed to smash glass beakers against a glass wall, and I wanted to use real broken shards of glass to do it. So it occurred to me that I could tilt the entire set on a 90-degree angle and shoot everything from above and cheat it as if it was vertical when it was actually horizontal. In that case, I could spread the broken shards of glass out on the flat pane of glass, which was actually just an aquarium. Spreading out the broken pieces of glass let me animate the broken shards without having to attach them with glue or anything like that. I was just using gravity as my friend. You can also use forced perspective to make yourself a character in your own toy movie. Ooh, is that Duff? Looks good. Today I'm going to challenge myself to recreate that famous shot from Star Wars using forced perspective and just this gear right here. Now, to most people, this would not even be able to be categorized as gear, but sometimes this is all the gear you got. No special camera, just an iPhone. No tripod, just a couple of clothespins. I've also got a piece of construction paper, a glue gun, a clip-on lamp, a battery-powered LED lamp, a book, an empty box of Pop-Tarts, some painter's tape, just a couple of pieces left. Gonna see if I can make it work. Some scissors and some gel samples. I'll get into that later. One thing you might not have is a background like this to use. This I got from a toy from like '95, and I've used it over and over again for 20 years in various toy cinema projects because it's such a perfect hallway. But you could find stuff like this online and print it out at home or at Kinko's or, you know, FedEx office. There's a lot of great CGI screensavers that make great toy cinema backgrounds. Plus, if you don't have the ability to print stuff out, you could use rear screen projection. Just use a laptop or your TV and freeze frame it at just the right point in the movie. Or, like I said, there's a million different backdrops like this you can find online. Let's just do it. I've never actually made a tripod out of clothespins, but I think it'll work. So let's try it. Okay, first I need to set up my background, which is made for smaller figures, so I need to prop it up on something, which is why I got out this old Guerrilla Filmmaker's Handbook, which since this is guerrilla filmmaking, and since I've never used this handbook for anything other than propping stuff up in toy movies, so I wrapped the construction paper around the spine of the book just to cover up the yellow, and I taped it down, but the painter's tape wasn't working, so I switched to this slightly tackier Sure tape that's, I think, used for marking stuff in filmmaking because it's pretty easily removable. And then I also taped the back of the cardboard so I don't damage the front of it. And now I have my background pretty much ready to go, but it's kind of fallen down, so I'm going to put this Pop-Tarts box behind it. I have another use for the Pop-Tarts box, but that's also a good use for it. Now I'm going to set up my camera. And I'm going to do that by putting this clothespin right here. And then this one right on this side. Just right in the notches where it just... Look at that, it balances real easy. But I'm not going to leave it balanced like that. That would be crazy. Alright, I've got my camera set up approximately where I want it, but I've got to glue these feet to the table without damaging the table. This table's Got a lot of carbon scoring because it's seen a lot of action, but I don't want any more. So just gonna easily protect the table with some tape. Just X marks the spot. Get your glue gun. Glue here. Glue here. There we go. So we're just going to let that dry for a few minutes. Okay, it's time to add the special, which is the filmmaking term for any light that is added with a special purpose to illuminate some in particular object. This is a cheap LED light that I got, many years ago at like Bed Bath & Beyond. It's been through heck and back by, being glued to, things over and over and over again for toy filmmaking purposes. And I got it because of the, ability to, adjust it kind of like, professional lighting to some degree. So I'm trying to aim it at the blade and very little else. I do want a little spillover onto Obi-Wan because it does, you want the blade to look like it's lighting up the surrounding area as well. But that's why I love doing this as a practical effect, first of all. So that's looking pretty good right underneath it there. We probably want to try to eliminate this glare, but that is, I'll get to that in a minute. But I'm going to use, that's what the purpose of this Pop-Tarts box was. But I have another purpose for it too. I wanted to show you. If the need of your special light was to just shine a sliver of light, you can use a cardboard box like this and an LED type lamp that doesn't get hot, and you can sculpt the light down to just a sliver. I've cut the ends off of this so that they're a little smoother. You can kind of sculpt the light just like professional lights with barn doors, but see how you can kind of open and close that light as you wish. And with a cardboard box you can just kind of tape it into place once you get it the way you want it. But we don't need that for this. That was just one thing I wanted to show you, a cheap solution to many lighting problems. Okay, we're getting there, and you could basically shoot at this point, but I want to be a perfectionist because, there's some problems with this frame that we could fix pretty easily. This glare down the bottom reveals that there's a light right off screen, and it's because the light is directly hitting the lens that's happening. So if we were able to block that light, we would get rid of that glare. So I have cut this piece off of the Pop-Tarts box, and we're going to use it as what's called a flag. And we are going to just jam that into the clothespin and then see if we can I think I keep seeing this little corner. I need to snip that off. Okay. Looking good. I still see it. Bingo. Bingo. Still lights up the blade, but it looks like the blade is lighting up on its own. Oh my gosh, that's great, right? All right, so we're almost ready. Okay, we are 99% there. I just think it might be just a little bit better if this light was just slightly bluer. And even though these are cool blue LEDs compared to the warm LED light that I have hitting the ceiling, this is still a little bit blue on the screen here, so it might be just fine the way it is. Don't worry if you don't have a gel sample book like I've got, but I've been using this for 20 years. It's called a Swatch book, and it's made by the Roscoe Lux Gel Company. But all the gel companies have these, and it's literally a sample of every single gel that they make. And you can get these online. I've looked them up, just looking up gel samples, and you can get these for like $3, $5, $10 maximum, and you can have this shipped to you, and it's got a sample of every kind of gel. including diffusion gels and texture gels and things like that. I've been using it for years. The only thing is it's only got one of each, so you can't really like use the same color on every light, but you can find the color that you need pretty much for any circumstance. So let's look for a blue that might work. This blue is a little too dark. Okay, this one is called Mist Blue, and I think we might have a winner here because it's just subtle enough to be blue, but not too, doesn't dim the saber all that much compared to this is without, this is with, this is without, this is with. So yeah, I think we're gonna use it. So we're just gonna cut that right out of the sample book. Okay, I think we're ready to do a take here. So we're gonna roll on that camera. We're gonna double check the focus. Okay, looking good. Let's get that lightsaber aimed at the lens. Oh, this flap keeps coming into frame. Gotta watch that. There's this gel coming into frame. All right, you gotta watch that. Everything's gotta be real careful when you're working with such close quarters. Oh, my finger was visible. Oh, flap again. Okay, jeez, it's just problem after problem. All right, here we go. We're rolling. We're rolling. 3, 2, 1. Ah, pretty good. My sound effects are terrible, but you know that's not the point. I'm gonna extinguish it here. Let's see. All right, gonna try one more. 3, 2, 1. All right, so again, it's not about the sound effects, it's about the visuals, because we can fix the sound later. But, you know, I do highly recommend that you make as many sound effects as you need to make your movies as awesome as they need to be in the making of process, because it definitely helps. Just ask Laura Dern. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right. I think we got it. My first attempt looked pretty cool, but I'm going to give it a second shot. I feel like I could improve things if I took a different approach. It's really easy to fall in love with your footage. What's hard is to take a step back, look at it objectively, and be honest with yourself about if it's good or not and what you can improve on if you set it up all over again and gave it a second shot. That's what I'm going to do with today's advanced lesson. We're going to take a totally different approach to this shot. See, I already like it better this time because I've got the lens flare just right and it looks like the real actual glow of the lightsaber, better than I've ever achieved before. So I already like that, but there's another couple of ways we can do it differently and I think we'll get much better results. First, we're going to ditch this cardboard and we're going to do it totally differently regarding the set. We're going to use something called rear screen projection. On my laptop, I have Star Wars paused at just the right spot, right when Chewie has growled at the mouse droid and chased him off set. So I've got a perfectly clean background set to use of the Death Star, the actual Death Star set from the movie. I love creating a virtual toy cinema set using a still from the original film because you just can't beat the realism. However, this isn't quite ready for us to film yet because we've got to tweak these colors on this photo. When you're filming a monitor, the blue of the monitor really is noticeable, so we've got to warm up that light so that it matches this light a little bit better. To accomplish that is real simple. It'll only take a minute. I just took a screen grab from the movie and I'm importing it into Lightroom, where I just need to adjust the color temperature right here, the top slider, and we're going to warm that image right up till it matches a little more closely with this. See, that's looking pretty good right there. But we're also going to lower the highlights just to kind of ease the light on those wall lights there. Alright, so I have only just adjusted these two sliders, and that's all we really need to do. I'm going to export this and open that up. All right, let's see how we did. This is the original, and this is the adjusted. Oh yeah, that's much nicer, much nicer. Quick peek behind the scenes of this forced perspective shot with a breakaway wall that I'm about to attempt. It was all very last minute idea that I just kind of cobbled together with the pieces that I had around, and that's why I'm trying to show you my process here from start to finish. I just flipped the phone around on my C47 bipod that I invented for this shot, and C47s is the filmmaking code term for clothespins, and that's the truth, because every essential filmmaking tool needs a cool code name. So the breakaway wall, I realized I had this printout of asphalt that I used as the road in my previous video, so I just scribbled on it with Sharpie to make it look a little more like a stone wall. This breakaway wall is just assembled from scraps of foam board that I had lying around from previous sets, and this is all just to show you it doesn't matter whatever the camera doesn't see, it doesn't matter what it looks like, it doesn't matter how you set it up, what it's made of. This is all just precariously balanced on a stool, and of course the filmmaker's handbook, good for everything, 1,001 uses. And then some invisible thread here that's attached to the wall, because I'm all alone here, so I'm going to have to pull this off myself. I'm going to be crouched behind this. My one piece of film equipment is a C-stand, and I've got some vintage sheets from Empire Strikes Back that I will be pulling aside to reveal myself. One final element of the effect I hope to accomplish was just another last-minute idea. It's also an example of going the extra mile, as I like to do, because this extra invisible filament was dangling down, and it occurred to me I could tie it around through this hole in the flame, and then, you know, when I yank the wall away, hopefully a millisecond later the flame will be yanked away as well, as the winds, you know, quickly extinguish the fire, and as a symbol of the passion being sparked between Rey and Kylo Ren, because you know, forced dyad hand-holding shenanigans will, you know, that's a violation of metaphysical social distancing rules, so, you know, it's not going to be tolerated on my island, Missy. We got to snuff that right out. No! Stop! No! Stop! 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 Oh, I killed Rey. Ah! No! No! Stop!